Let's talk about Shogun, episodes 5, 6, and 7. So we watched episode 5 like 3 weeks ago. It's been a little while for that. I do have some notes on it, but we won't go too much into that one. Honestly, I liked all these episodes. I thought they were all good, very solid. I gave episode 5 an 8. It was a bit of a slower episode, but I like how we're really getting to know the characters, motivations. It had some really good CGI parts. And I felt that episode was really tense with some of the character. Like, it wasn't tense in like an action scene. It was more tense in like people feeling each other out and figuring out what's going on, and a lot of character work. And I feel like honestly, all of these kind of did that really well. Episode 6, I think, focused on different characters, but kind of did more of the same. It was more of like the women-focused episode.
Yes.
We had some really intense scenes. We got some cool backstory of some of the characters. I think episode 6 had some of the strongest dialogue in the show, and that's saying a lot because there's some really good dialogue in the show.
There's a lot, yeah.
So I gave episode 6, it was a little slower. I gave it an 8 also because of how well the dialogue was and how tense it was. And then episode 7, I was between an 8 or a 9. I think I'm gonna give this one a 9. I really liked there was a new character introduced in episode 7, and I really liked how that kind of threw a wrench into it. We got to see characters reacting to this new character, and I thought there was really great acting in this one and good character moments and a really good setup for the future. So I gave it a 9.
Yeah, I pretty much for most I agree. I'd give episode 5 a 8 as well. While this one was a little contained and not action, I really loved, you're right, it was intense in the sense of characters feeling each other out, and there was moments where like you don't know how someone's going to react or what's going to happen, and it was pretty intense. I really enjoyed it a lot. So I agree with you with that. And then episode 6, I agree as well. I would give that one an 8. Kind of like you said, similar in the sense of a little more character driven. What was that one called? It was like the Lady of the Willows or something like that.
Ladies of the Willow World.
So I thought that was interesting, and I thought there was a good character moments with the barbarian, what's his name?
Anjin, John Blackthorne.
John Blackthorne, or Anjin, and
Mariko.
Yeah, Mariko, yeah. Yeah, I thought there were some good moments with them, and they're definitely, I mean, obviously, a lot of the show is definitely tense intensity with them, thrown in with, her husband, of course.
Buntaro.
And, him. So 8 out of 10 for that one too. And then episode 7, I agree with you. I think a 9 out of 10. I really liked the direction in the sense of, like you said, introducing a new character. Now that we know all these other characters, it's interesting seeing them react to someone else that they need, in a sense. I thought it did set up some interesting stuff for the future. The ending set up some interesting, curious to see where it goes, because there's some stuff that happens. So I would give that one a 9. I thought that was a great episode. Overall, like, these 3 were great.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the word to describe this show is consistency. I feel like like all of these episodes are just so consistent.
That's why like it's hard when we miss a week, because it blends in so, like, in a good way. They're distinct in the sense of like they all have their own theme kind of, but like it doesn't feel like they all feel authentic.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, we can get into spoilers, and I know you have some notes for episode 5 and 6, which we could kind of gloss over that, and then we could do the most of the discussion with episode 7, the last episode.
Yeah, so spoiler alert for Shogun, episodes 5 through 7. I'll just go through high level my notes for episodes 5 and 6. So episode 5, we learned that Buntaro is alive, and him coming back into the picture and having to stay with John Blackthorne made some really awkward situations and some really tense scenes. They had like a drinking contest kind of thing.
I really enjoyed those scenes.
Yeah, they were.
Like, I thought it was intense.
Yeah, because Buntaro doesn't like him, but you don't know how much and like how unhinged he is or how crazy it's gonna get.
Yeah, Marco was like telling him, don't let him drink more, pretty much.
Yeah, and then he ends up like shooting arrows right next to Mariko's face. And
that's one thing I like, is at the end of the episode he comes back and he notices that they hit the right pole.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and he was that drunk. Like,
yeah, so drunk.
But I liked how they did that later in the episode. Like, oh shit, he did hit those poles.
Yep. So I thought all those scenes were great with Buntaro, Mariko, Fuji, and John Blackthorne. Very intense. And we got to see a different side of Mariko. I feel like when Buntaro's around, she kind of seems to take a back seat and like not be as prominent. And in that one, she does something interesting where she kind of cuts off ties with Blackthorn a little bit, where she's like, when we talk, we're only going to talk through other people's lips. But then as it keeps going, it kind of seems like she's doing that, but kind of not. I don't know.
Definitely in the next episode. It's like she definitely feels more held back, but she's still talking to him.
Right.
Because you could tell they're, even through the other episodes, like they are trying to hold, or she is at least trying to. Not necessarily succeeding.
Yeah. And then there's two more main things I think in this episode. The first is there was a spy. So Toranaga had a spy in, I think it was Ishido's group or something. Oh yeah, and the gardener like removes the pheasant that Blackthorn said not to move under penalty of death, just kind of as a throwaway line. He moved it because it was like rotting, and so then they put him to death.
I thought that was a great scene too, because like it just demonstrates like culturally how different. Like Blackthorn's like, you idiots, I didn't literally move, you're gonna die.
I think that showed that he needs to, they take everything very seriously, and everything he says he can't just like
Marco
throw
says,
out.
right? Your words like are heavy, like words are heavy. What Marco said something like that in one of the episodes.
Yeah, I think it was in this
one.
Words
have meaning. Was it the same exact one? Yeah. I get Blackthorn because it's like, dude, you're like, we're not literally saying freaking kill a dude if he touches it. Like they took it so literal, but it's so interesting that like seeing the cultural differences, like it was, I thought that was really interesting.
And then Toranaga, being the genius that he is, uses that gardener as a fake spy. Like they blame the spy on him, so it takes heat off of the actual spy, which is a great idea to make use of a horrible situation, I guess. The last thing in this was the earthquake and the subsequent landslide, which I thought looked amazing. The CGI looked great in that. And then we find out that it killed a ton of people and wiped out his army, basically. So they're in a pretty tough spot.
Hence brings some plots into the next two episodes.
And then that episode ends with Lady Ochiba being introduced. And even in that one, I was like, oh man, this lady's going to be a problem.
Seriously.
She just seems so like cold and calculated. And
that's a good way to put it.
Of all the characters that could like stand up to Toranaga, I feel like she would probably have the best chance so far.
I don't know. She makes what's his face, who's kind of like the big bad in
Ishido.
that city. Yeah, she makes him like almost like, oh man, he was kind of reasonable, even though he's not. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, this one felt different, because I remember you saying that when I asked you like this one. You're like, yeah, it's different. I liked it, and I get what you were saying. Like it felt different, especially those scenes where a lot of it was just in the house, right? Like kind of feeling out each other.
Very
like,
long.
It was good. It was
scenes,
interesting,
tense, building up tension, trying to figure out what everybody's thinking. Yeah, it was really well done.
That's a good way to say. Yeah, there was long scenes. Yeah, like long, intense build-up scenes. Yeah. So that was episode 5, right?
That was episode 5.
What about episode 6?
So episode 6 was Ladies of the Willow World. It focused on the women characters. We had some flashbacks of Mariko and Ochiba, and learned that they grew up together. And I thought all of the acting, like Mariko, Ochiba, especially, their acting was really good in this episode. So in this one,
this is a very character-driven episode too.
Yeah, very character-driven episode. I feel like the big part of this one was Toranaga gets approached by John Blackthorn and asked like, when can I get my ship? What am I doing? And then Toranaga's like, you can't have your ship, but you can go to this brothel, basically.
Yeah, you can't have it, but here, I'll make you happy with someone else.
Yeah, and then he has Mariko go along with him to translate, to like see if he'll say anything in the process. So they go there, and I think my favorite part of this episode was, so he's talking to the most pricey courtesan there, and the courtesan kind of just can tell that there's something between Mariko and him, and at one point she goes and sits behind Mariko, and it just like kind of fades her out, and Mariko's translating. She switches. Normally she translates in third person, which is kind of unique. That's not really how you're supposed to translate, I don't think, but she switches it to first person, and I think the reason they have them do that is because that's showing that's really what she wants to say but can't. And I thought that was a really well done, well shot shot, well acted scene. It was really good.
They're doing their relationship really good in the sense of it feels believable, right? She's ultra, she can't, like, she has to do what she has to do, right? She can't go for him, but he wants her, but he's trying to respect. Like, I don't know. They're doing their relationship good, like interesting, good writing.
For sure.
And you're right, that scene was really good. How she kind of fades in the background, and it's almost like them two just kind of talking. And I like that scene. That was probably the best scene. I agree.
Yeah, and then he reaches out and touches her hand as he goes off with the courtesan.
Yeah.
Which was a nice little touching moment. One thing I liked in this and the next episode was in both these episodes, Buntaro goes to Toranaga to complain, basically, about his marriage. And both times, Toranaga just looks so annoyed and is like, why are you bothering me with this? I have so much other stuff to do. And at one point, he's like, well, then just divorce her already.
Like a school teacher, like, oh my god, all this little drama.
Yeah, seriously.
What's happening in episode 7?
The other thing in this one,
6, sorry.
in 6, is Ochiba is putting up some schemes to try and get Toranaga out faster. There's like a bandit scene where one of the people on the council thing like stands up and says they're not gonna sentence Toranaga to death. There's no like actual proof, and then there's like a bandit quote unquote attack where that guy gets killed. It was a Shido, and we saw that. So they get rid of him, and there's also a part where she like sets up something where it makes it look like Toranaga attacked the Taiko's son to make it seem like he's like give more reason for why he should be kicked off the council and put to death. So she's putting in a bunch of different schemes to try and get him out. And then this is also the episode where Crimson Sky is brought up, which is very interesting, and I feel like that's going to be a big part of the episodes to come, where it's this like one try gambit where they just full on rush Osaka and try and take it over and kick him out, and seems very risky, but might be their only chance. So
like all or nothing kind of thing.
Yeah, at first Toranaga's like,
Toranaga doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, at first he's like, no, I'm not going to do it. And someone says, but you've won every fight. And he's like, it's because I don't strike first. But now he may have no choice. So that'll be really interesting.
I think it was the next episode he said it, but there's a quote he said, he's like, why does everyone who hasn't been in a war always want to fight?
That was a really good line.
I think he was talking to his son, right? I think that might have been in the next episode.
Yeah, that was episode 7.
Which I guess we can get into.
And one thing, just right before that, in episode 5, 6, and 7, and actually in this whole season, every episode there's a shot of Yabushige being jealous of something that John Blackthorne gets. It's so funny.
Oh, yeah. There's always a shot there.
Oh, you're going to go get the most expensive courtesan, and then it just shows Yabushige like, what the heck? Okay, episode 7.
Yeah, so this episode, first and foremost, a lot of it was they need to get more support since they're doing Crimson Sky, so that he wanted to reach out to his brother, which I think it's his half-brother, right? Technically.
They do have different last names, so that would make sense.
I thought I heard him say half-brother at some point, but I could be wrong. A lot of the episode was, his brother comes, they meet in the forest, and at first it's kind of intense, and then, it loosens up, and they're like, let's have a night of fun and stuff, and drink, and women and all that, and before we start talking business. And so that's kind of one subplot, and of course they have that talk, and there's stuff that happens which we'll get into.
One really, it kind of almost seems like a throwaway scene, but I feel like it's going to have really big repercussions, is when the lady who runs the Willow World place comes up to Toranaga. I thought that was a really interesting scene because it makes it seem like she's the only one who believes that Toranaga knows exactly what's going on and has a plan to win. Because from everybody else's point of view, it kind of seems hopeless. She comes up and is like, well, yeah, you obviously know what's going on. You're smart. You have a plan for this. When you win, give me this district and I will help you. Like she asks for basically a brothel district that she can run in Edo.
She's getting old, right? So she can't be an actual horizon. So she wants to run it and run it good in this new city he builds.
Which I feel like if that does happen is going to be a big part of the information network or some way for Toranaga to keep eyes on things, to always know what's going on. So I think that's a really cool setup.
Yeah, so it could be a good partnership, right? Yeah, because men are going to spill the beans when they're getting serenaded, right? Like, so it's like a perfect little thing. That you're right. That was kind of a throwaway scene, but it does seem like it sets up some future things if there is future seasons.
Because it even shows him putting together a document that says that she will get that district, basically.
Yeah. Which I guess this is a question. Is this going to have multiple seasons? Because when I look, it's a limited series. series.
Yeah,
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I saw that. I don't think it will have multiple seasons. I feel like it should. It's good enough to.
Unless it gets so popular, they change it. They might.
Yeah. It says it's a mini series.
I'll be curious. Yeah, the main meat and potatoes of this episode is the stuff with his brother. You know, he's telling the stories at that dinner, and I thought that was a really good scene. It was kind of lighthearted and fun, and you see Blackthorn just sitting there all confused.
Yeah, not knowing what's going on.
Yeah, he just looks like a little puppy in a room. Like, what the heck? And then his brother wants to talk about business, and he's like, no, wait till tomorrow. He's like, no, and then it turns out that he got offered to be put on the council, and so pretty much betrayed them. And I thought that was I actually wasn't expecting that, to be honest. Were you?
No, I wasn't. I feel like I should have, but I did not expect it.
I feel like I should have too.
Yeah,
but I didn't.
And I almost feel like Toranaga expected it and either got his brother in on it, and so they're like playing it through to make it seem like he's been betrayed, but he really hasn't been, or he knew he was going to betray him and has a backup for that too, or something. I feel like Jin, the courtesan, is right, and that Toranaga is in control here, and just seeming like he's not.
Yeah, I'm very curious because I don't know. Maybe they're hiding it well, but I don't feel like they're working together.
Yeah,
like, I feel like it'd be really more so he has a backup plan,
or they're really good actors or something. Although if they are working together, if they are working together, the end of this episode is so devastating.
I was gonna say that makes the end of this episode even worse.
Oh my God.
Like in the sense of devastating.
But we'll get to that. And I saw someone in one of the comments talk about this quote from Sun Tzu's Art of War: "Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak." And I feel like that's what Toranaga is doing. Is he's appearing weak, but he knows what's going on, and he's setting up the Crimson Sky.
Oh yeah. Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. I like that.
Yeah.
Because you're right, that's kind of what he's doing now. Because after all that goes down, he's pretty much says, surrender yourself or you're done.
Yeah, and he does surrender.
He surrenders. He said, no more Crimson Sky, and his son gets very angry about that. Everyone gets angry, and I thought Blackthorn was going to do something about it.
Yeah, me too.
Because he was, at the end there, he was getting pissed off. He's like, screw all this, I just want my ship. Blackthorn, this last few episodes, well, like this episode, last episode, was like, I just want my freaking ships and my crew, and I will serve you till freaking end of the world.
And he's like, I like the scene where he's like, you keep giving me stuff. What are you giving me stuff for? Give me my ship. I don't know what you want from me.
It's just funny because like I'll follow you to the other world. Just give me my ship and men. Which clearly he has no men, right? Is that why Toranaga is like giving it to him?
I don't know.
How has he not realized that yet?
Does he think they're in some bathhouse in Osaka or something? Where are they?
Like, it's just so funny. Like Blackthorn, I like his character because he can be super serious, but like he's funny too.
Yeah, he is.
Maybe it's like the fish out of water kind of funny, but it's just funny. But that was the main meat and potatoes. And then of course he had to surrender by the end of the next day. And then that's when they had that scene with his son where he's like, we need to just attack now. Like he always just wants to attack. And that's when he said that quote. Or why do the ones who haven't been to war want to fight?
Yeah, and they're so eager for it.
And then there was a scene too that was interesting with pretty much his son. What's his son's name again? Toranaga's son?
Nagakado.
There's a scene where he was in the hot springs with, what was it, his cousin?
Yeah, his cousin.
And then the Toranaga's brother overhears him.
Yeah, that was really interesting and definitely set up the ending.
Like, we could just end him now, blah, blah, blah. And then he walks out of the shadows.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like the ending. So there's that last couple minutes, which were really, that was a really good scene.
Yeah.
Like it was intense, like, and the action was good. The intensity was there. There was like no music almost. It was just kind of like, oh crap, stuff's going to go down.
And it's Nagakado again, taking stuff into his own hands, trying to be his father, basically. And
dude, I understood why you did it the first time, but you cannot do it right now, man.
Yeah.
The first time I'll cut you some slack because, to be honest, like, screw this. I need to prove myself. So I know there's something going on, so I get it. But this time I'm like, dude. And then like how it ended, I'm like, oh.
So brutal. So one thing I liked about this is it wasn't explicitly explained, but I feel like what happened is we saw at the very beginning of the episode Toranaga's first win in battle, and this guy asks him to be his second, which means he beheads him after he commits seppuku. And we learn that the myth is that Toranaga decapitated him in one swing as a 12-year-old, and his son's like, oh, that's so cool, I want to be like that, basically. And I feel like he was trying to do that with one big swing against Sayaki, or the half-brother, and he slips, hits his head on a rock, and he's dead. And that's it. And it's just like so brutal. brutal watching him there just
It
gurgling.
looks like he could have won that too. During the scene, I was wondering, like, where is this gonna go? Are they gonna kill someone right now? Like, I wasn't sure because I'm like, there's no like, are they really gonna kill the brother already? And I'm like, or are they gonna kill this? Like, I wasn't sure where it was gonna go, and then it happened. I'm like, oh,
I was not expecting it to go that way. I'll say that.
No, I was like, dang. Now I'm very curious. I'm very curious to see how Toranaga is gonna act, or how he's gonna react, I should say. Like, is he gonna be composed? Is he gonna be like heartbroken? Is he gonna blame it on his brother, or is he gonna think his son's an idiot and disown him because of this? Like, I'm very curious how he's gonna react.
That's a very good question.
I feel like he cares a lot about his son. Like, even though he gets pissed off with his son, they purposely show him like that he cares about his son. That's what I'm most curious for. Is this is kind of the first big death of one of the main characters we've been following, isn't it?
It is.
I was thinking about that. I'm like, wow, like we fall. I mean, there were some deaths at the beginning of the show, but like since the main characters that we actually know, this is kind of the first
big one with repercussions.
The first ones, yeah. That whole scene was good though. I mean,
yeah, very.
It was
good.
Raining, right? The atmosphere and the fighting and the sneak attack and the emotion to it, and then the ending of it. I thought that was great. I loved it.
And I think what's also interesting is during this episode, we see Toranaga talking about that moment of the myth of him beheading in one blow, and he asks someone who was there, he's like, why didn't you say something? It took me 9 swings to get through his head or something like that. And then he's like, why would you ask a 12-year-old to be your second? But that just shows the myths and how they can influence people, and his son was influenced by it, and it got him killed.
It's interesting because like he chopped the dude's head off, but not in one swing. So it's like with all legends, right? Some of it's true, but it gets exaggerated or changed.
Right.
But like you said, it inspired, like his son wanted to be that. That is a tragic death because the poor son just wanted, like, I don't remember his name, but he frustrates me. But God, he wants to do good for his father.
Yeah, I know. It's definitely tragic is a good way to put it.
He's doing it the wrong way, but like it's that typical like son wanting to impress his father kind of thing.
Sad.
I'm very curious where it goes.
Yeah, I really don't have a read. While you're going through the scenarios of how Toranaga is going to react, I was like, I could see most of those. I don't have a read on what exactly he's going to do.
I'm very. I mean, there's 3 episodes left. I think there's 10 episodes in the show, right?
Yep.
I don't want to guess because I guessed with Masters of the Air and got disappointed.
There are 10. I just checked.
Okay, so 3 episodes still. Okay, so we still got some time. Good.
Yeah.
See, I love 10 episodes, man. I love 10 episodes.
I know.
Yeah, these are all like an hour long.
I know. They're all an hour. I love it.
Oh, it's amazing. And they go fast. I'm watching the show and they feel fast to me.
Yeah, they do.
For how much dialogue and not a lot of action there is, it feels fast. Like, that's how I know it's a good freaking show.
Yeah, especially these last 3 episodes, there really wasn't a whole lot of action, but it did.
No.
They felt like very fast episodes.
And like, I'm thinking more and more about episode 5, well, how you said, like the long, intense scenes with the husband coming back. The more and more I think about it, the more and more I really like that episode, like those scenes. And even the stuff with the bird and the gardener, like the more and more I think about it, that episode kind of is what the show is. It doesn't have to be big action. It's just, and they do so good at the small, intense moments.
For sure.
And then when that action hits, it's kind of like the earlier seasons of Game of Thrones. There wasn't necessarily a lot of action. Well, I'm loving it. I mean, I know it says miniseries, but man, can you see how popular it is and just make 5 seasons, please?
The thing is, I think it's based off a book, and I think they go through the whole book in this miniseries, so they would have to come up with some other...
Just make it up.
Yeah.
Just make it up. Maybe it won't be as good, though, but just make it up. I don't know however it ends, we could just extend it more. Unless, like, all these characters die.
Yeah.
I guess if it's a miniseries, and my God, it's a great miniseries, and probably one I would rewatch every once in a while. But yeah, I'm excited. I think the next one comes out this Tuesday. It's every Tuesday, right?
Yeah, I think so. So we'll be able to talk about episode 8.
Talk about episode 8 next week. Yep. So we'll go back to every week. Cool. We took a break last week for Easter, so.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, that's all I got for this. Great stuff this week.
Yeah, this show has been one of the most consistent and one that I've looked forward to the most recently. It's such a good show.
I agree. This show, like, I turn on and I know I'm gonna I have to get in. It's not one of those shows where I'm like on my phone or it's volume low. Like when I watch a show, I'm sitting there with my surround sound and my intensity and like full attention, like ready to get absorbed into this world. It's one of those shows.